It could have been a lot worse. I mean, it
Yeah.
could. I still have friends in Orlando who don't have electricity, and we were much closer. You and I were much closer to this hurricane than Orlando was. I mean, it was pretty much on top of my. I mean, it was real close to our house. Went right by, below us. And bad for the people of Cape Coral and Fort
Yeah.
Myers Beach, but the fact that it went south of where it was supposed to hit was really, a blessing because it was pretty ugly. I
I
saw
think what I think what was rough too is they were predicting it was going to hit Tampa until probably like once it passed out of Cuba. They told everyone Fort Myers, Port Charlotte, okay, it's actually hitting you guys, and they only had 12 hours to get ready, whereas we were being told all week it was going to hit us. That's why telling telling everyone like, you gonna go anywhere? It's like, no, I got 4 cats. I mean, I'm not going anywhere. Yeah, I'm not gonna because there was 10-hour traffic to Orlando on Wednesday, believe it or not, which is just crazy. Everyone wanted to go there and ended up getting a little bit more over there, but Port Charlotte and Fort Myers got really the rough of it, sadly.
Yeah, and the area down in Naples and Marco Island too. It wasn't supposed to go near there, and because it went north, it just pulled all the water from around. They got the nasty swells, so that whole area got flooded really, really bad. I saw this guy who had his $1 million car and his Rolls and all that stuff, and it's hard to feel bad for wealthy people, but when you see a Rolls Royce and a Bugatti floating, it's
Yeah,
just wrong about that. It just
yeah,
doesn't. It's not.
seriously.
It's forget the guy, but just seeing those beautiful cars floating, I'm like, oh, that's too bad, man. I mean, next time get some elevation on those puppies and be able to lift them to the roof of your garage or something. But
Something because there were people literally swimming in their houses. I mean, you can't make that shit up.
yeah, my back fence right now is blown out. Like it just blew the shit out of the back of my fence. I got to go fix that. But everything else, I'm trees, all that stuff can be replaced or fixed. But
Right.
we got lucky. And to the people who weren't so lucky, may God be with you, and hopefully the community gets together. I'm going to put together a care package and send it down to somebody who's traveling down there to hand out stuff. I know somebody who's actually doing the trip. So um, tough stuff. Hopefully that's the last one we have for a while.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
What's funny too, Eric, is this week is my first year in Florida officially, and
oh yeah.
celebrated it with a hurricane.
Yeah, well, congratulations on your anniversary, right?
Yeah, thanks.
Well, let's get into some fights, man. We this card did not have me excited at all, and then I started looking a little bit more into it, and I'm like, you know what? I can get into this. I can definitely get into it. Who do you like this week? And let's talk about some of the bigger matchups and see what we got.
Um, this week I'm not familiar with a lot of fighters on the card, if I'm being quite honest, but I will go ahead and say I do like Mackenzie Dern in her fight. She's coming off that loss to Maria Rodriguez, and the girl she's fighting also lost to Maria Rodriguez. And Zan is on I think that's how I say it. Zan's on a 2-fight losing streak, and Kenzie's on a 1-fight losing streak, but she was cooking before then. The real issue with Dern is I love her. She's my favorite female fighter, multiple reasons. Her stand up is just atrocious. I mean, that fight against Rodriguez was just you could tell the desperation started coming on in later rounds. When she gets you on the floor, it's like she's the Charles Oliveira of the female division. I mean, it's just brutal. But her striking needs to come together a little bit more. And she's only 29. She's got plenty of time. She's really with a really good team. I believe she trains with that the Ruka team in Dern, California, somewhere in California. But she trains with those guys. They got a great team. Like Michael Bisping still goes trains there. Cheeto Vera, Luke Rockhold was training there. They got a great team. So I really like Dern to bounce back in this. Probably get the submission. I could see her winning by submission easy. Especially in a 5-round fight. It's just a matter of time before she'll get a takedown. And then going on to another fight that I feel is a little bit of a mismatch is Sodik Yuseff and Don Shantis. This is Don's UFC debut.
Yep.
Sodik, I really like him as a fighter. I think he's very well rounded. He had trying to think if it was his last fight or the fight before, where he fought Arnold Allen, and Arnold Allen's making everyone look kind of lower class. That guy's excellent, but Yuseff fought him. Go ahead.
I said, yeah, he is. He's excellent. Yeah.
Yeah, Yuseff fought him to a really good decision. But he was on the shorter end of it. But I do think Yuseff makes quick work. Unless this Don guy's a real killer. I mean, he's got a good record. He's fought in other good promotions, but that's a really high. I think that's a big debut fight. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they're throwing him in on the Wolves right away. That's not.
Yeah.
Hey, let's give you guy get your feet wet. This is. Hey, let's see if you sink or swim. It looks like Dana White's just getting like, all right, motherfucker. You wanted to be here. Let's see how you do.
Yeah, and that's a hard first test. He's a tough fight for anyone in the division. You're pulling a guy out of the regional scene, throwing him right in there. Either there's something I'm missing, or like you said, it's just let's see if this guy sinks or swims. And I like Yuseff. I like Dern and Yuseff tonight. Wasn't really sure about a lot of other fights, but those two were my end all be alls. But there might be a little bit of bias in me picking Kenzie. I'm always gonna pick her. Something about just the pretty Brazilian jiu-jitsu girl. I'm gonna always pick her.
I'm excited to watch her because I haven't really had her on my radar, so that's something to look forward to. My pick of the day is Beast Boy. He's a massive fan of the anime that you.
Yeah, I was at this.
Yeah, massive fan. He's fights out of Orlando. I've been following him from his amateur career. I've followed him for about 7 years now as a fighter, and his stand-up's fucking nasty. He's had 3 fights at the UFC. He lost his first one, his next 2, but I don't know. Do you follow him on social media at all?
I don't. I didn't know he was local either.
He's a local guy, and
okay.
he's always been in shape. He's always been a fitness guy. But holy fucking shit, what he's done to his body. I mean, I don't know what this guy's actually doing. Let me see if I can pull up Beast.
Yeah, let me get an image of him.
He's fighting Slava Claus.
Is that on the prelim card?
I think it should be a main card. I mean, I don't know. I don't know where he is on the actual card layout, but here's an image so you can get a view of what he's done from a workout thing. So on the left is where he was. Clearly, doesn't work out, lazy, should really hit the gym. And on the right's what he's done to chisel himself. So he went from being in phenomenal shape to phenomenal shape. He's a killer, man. His stamina, his stand-up, back when he was in the amateurs, he was just knocking everybody out, and very, very high level, high-paced grappling. I think, he's positioning himself to make a run as a championship run, and he's got the skills to do it. Very few fighters have, the whole package, and he does. He was doing professional boxing and stuff as well and knocking people out. So Beast Boy is my pick of the week. He's a small favorite in this, but anytime you're fighting these Eastern Bloc people, they're just built from they're cut from a different cloth. The Vasilish Bolshevik, this motherfucker's been out there wrestling bears. You just know it by the name, and he's probably chiseled himself out of iron too. But I've looked a little bit into his background. He's lost his last fight. He won his first fight convincingly with a KO, lost his second fight. So together combined, these two have had 5 fights in the UFC. So I imagine it's probably pretty early in the card, but it should be a fun fight. I think this one definitely ends by KO. I think Davis is down.
I was gonna say he's the bigger fighter, and you think he just keeps us standing and cracks him the whole time, or
anywhere it goes, it'll be fine for. He's not gonna fold. under jiu-jitsu or anything like that. But I do expect it to be mostly on the feet, and I think it's going to be a KO. Usually these, sometimes you get these Khabib types that like to, smash, as they say.
Yeah.
So it might go to the ground, but it's getting Mike on the ground isn't an easy thing either. He's a pretty fucking good athlete, so it's going to be fun to watch.
And 6 foot at lightweight is a lot of body to hold down. I mean, those are for me personally, the taller guys at the weight class. It's harder to cover them because just going back to what we were talking about, like Robert Whitaker and Israel Adesanya, when you're trying to take down a guy and hold him down, and he's able to just frame you and stick you out, and you can't keep locked on his hips. That's tough. It's tough to hold these tall guys down.
That's why Izzy's so effective at everything he does. I mean, he can kind of do anything, but that length causes everybody problems. That's the beauty of his style. Stylebender's the perfect name for him because he can really, find a fighter, figure out their holes, and figure out how to beat them using whatever style he wants for that day. If it's keeping distance, or if it's peppering, or if it's being the aggressor, if it's being the counterpuncher, he adjusts, and it's worked out real well. Some people complain, "Oh, this is a boring fight." Well, go fuck yourself. He's winning fights. Some fighters are going to come in and wait to counter him and wait for him to get off first, and he's smart enough to figure that out and play that game. It's not going to be exciting for the fans, but that's how you win.
Right.
I'm really excited for this Anderson Spider Jake Paul fight.
That's October or November. End of October?
It's coming up soon. It's coming up in a few weeks. I think you're right. I think it's October 23rd or something like that. Maybe 30th. But that's a good fight because, I mean, first of all, Jake Paul with the balls to go in against Anderson Silva. But I don't know about you, but I think Silva may be the smartest, striker in terms of setting people up I've ever seen at the UFC level.
Agreed. Eric Anderson was my favorite growing up. Yeah. I'm long past the point of realizing that I'm never going to be like that type of fighter the way he was. But I loved watching him fight, watching the things he would do, and he'd just be doing like this little bullshit, just the movements he'd be doing. If it was out there clowning the guy or whatever, I mean, he really would set you up and get you thinking about 100 different things, whether it was just a little lift of the knee, waving his hands around, doing this, smacking his jab. I loved watching him. Did you happen to see the press conference with Jake Paul and Anderson?
I did. Well, at least I saw one of them. And you can tell, Jake Paul has been a fan of his forever. And Anderson, of course, was talking about the barbecue,
the tail.
Yeah. Yeah. He just seems like a great guy in general. Anytime, he's been a champ and a pro and around this game for a long time. But in the boxing realm, what he did to Chavez Jr., what he did to Tito. Oh, my goodness gracious. I mean, he's just really doing some. I mean, did you see the knockout where he had like 15 body shots in a row and then the headshot? Like he just went body, like a big flurry of little pitter patter body shots. They were hard enough to be effective, but they weren't power shots. As soon as the other fighter dropped his guard, he went up top and knocked him right out. I was like, that sneaky motherfucker. Like he gets in there and just makes you do things that you don't want to do. But he's almost like a glossary of fighting. He just downloads everything and uses it against you. By the end of the first round, he seems to know what you're going to do before you know what you're going to do.
Right, and what he did against Tito is beautiful. He just covered high, looped, stepped right out once Tito gave him an angle, and just boom, big hook, and Tito hit the floor. It almost looks so unreal. And I remember being a little kid when watching the things he would do. The Forrest Griffin fight was quite possibly my favorite because it looked like it was a choreographed fight. The way he was moving out there was insane. I mean, he slip, roll, crack, and it was like, what the hell? He looks like he's hitting pads out there. Like the way he was beating up Griffin. I remember I was a 16-year-old kid. I was jumping up and down, screaming because I was in disbelief what I was watching.
Griffin was a big, tough motherfucker, and he couldn't touch Anderson in that fight.
No,
Anderson could do whatever he wanted anyway, backing up at weird angles. It didn't matter. Griffin was just completely baffled. And
Yeah.
and it looked like it did. It looked like it wasn't even real. Like Griffin's just like, what how's this guy hitting me, moving backwards, moving forward? It doesn't matter. Anderson's throwing weird left leads and off angle shots, and all of them are landing perfectly. You're like chewing them up. So that's going to be fun, but I think that's actually coming up sooner. Let me see. Anderson, I just the spider, because I think that it might be fucking sooner than that.
Yeah, I feel like it's before the end of October.
Yeah, this is, I have old information here. The undercard, it says October 29th. Okay, October 29th. Yeah. Last Saturday in October. So that's going to be fun. There was
something that Anderson said in that press conference that had me a little bit worried. He was talking, Chael asked him a question about how he feels being in the box, or someone asked him about being in the boxing realm and how he feels about that. And Anderson said it's nice that he gets to train like this now. And he's like, I train with world-class champions all the time. I'm only getting knocked out twice in sparring. And even I was watching it through because Ariel Helwani, I watch MMA Hour at work every Monday and Wednesday, and Ariel even said, he's like, oh, you don't like to hear that? He's like, and then he's like, did he just say he's getting knocked out in sparring? That had me a little like, wait a minute, what? Like, his English is really good now too, so I don't think that he missaid that or anything. I mean, when he said, yeah, I only get like knocked out twice in sparring, it's like, what? Like, that's not good at his age. I mean,
no, too many concussions. You should take a long time off and let that brain heal.
Yeah, when he said that had me a little like, I don't know, because I mean, let's be honest, Jake's not going to go out there and outstyle him. Jake's going to just look out there and throw big right overhands, jab overhand, jab overhand, and I mean, the dude's got power. And I tell everyone, like, what do you think about Jake Paul? It's like, why are you asking me anything about Jake Paul because I'm a fighter too. Like, the thing with Jake Paul is, yeah, he was a YouTuber, but you got to realize this guy has no other things to do other than train boxing. This kid made as much money as he could from other outlets in his life. Now the only shit he does is train boxing and vlog and train. That's all he does. He's training with some really good people because, you know what? Money talks. He doesn't have to worry about having to go to work, having to deal with kids, having to deal with whatever. He can be dead focused on this. So that's why I think he's doing it right. Yeah, he's talking a lot of shit. He's got the means to get better, and I think that's why he can be a problem. Anderson's going to be a good test for him, even though Jake's going to have the young athleticism.
Yeah,
Anderson's got the age, and Father Time, when he comes knocking, man, we've seen it time and time again. That's going to do everyone in. That'll do everyone in. You can be perfect, but time's going to catch up. That's the only thing I'm worried about with that fight.
Yeah, no, Jake could win that fight. I mean, he's an outstanding athlete, and that right hand is the real deal at any as any fighter. He's probably got one of the better right hands in boxing. There are not that many power hitters left. There's, a handful of them. Better be Anu, a couple other guys that can put people to sleep, but there's not. Of course, Wilder.
Yeah, I was about to say Wilder's the only one I can think of off the top of my head.
Yeah, there's 3 or 4. Kid Austin coming up, but he's still fight 12 coming up, but 9 knockouts so far with 11 fights. There's a couple, but he's got one of the best rights in boxing, and if Anderson's been touched up like that, the brain could shut off pretty quick. Even a glove shot, that glances off the glove and hits him
right through.
In that big old head of Anderson's, it could be bad. But other than that, Anderson should, be able to outbox him. But again, Jake, you brought up a great point. Jake brings in these top quality sparring partners. Most fighters don't have the ability to have world champs come in and train with them. That doesn't happen until, usually much later in your career, or if you happen to be in the right boxing gym, in Vegas or, Southern Texas, where there's a ton of or Philly, where there's a ton of boxing talent. Most people have to really work to get quality sparring partners. This kid's able to pull in anybody he wants at any weight class he wants and get in the top people. So his development on the fact that he's a great athlete and the fact that he's got that great right hand, his development's been so much faster. I mean, it's unheard of to go in without an amateur career and do what he's done. So even getting in the ring, huge hat tip to Jake Paul. Kid's got some fucking massive huevos, and he deserves a lot of respect for that. I don't think this is going to go well for him, but again, he's got that one punch quit power. So I'm excited to watch it. And that's a good way to finish up the month of October. We're already October 1st. It's insane.
A week before we got Islam and Charles.
Yeah, that's going to be. I think Islam just walks right through him. To be honest, I'm not saying. I mean, yeah, I do. Charles's jiu-jitsu is fucking amazing, and he really is great. But I think Islam's going to just smash him. I just think that there's a physical strength difference there that I don't think Charles is going to have an answer for Islam's strength. I don't know why. I just don't see that fight going well for Charles Oliveira. But I've been wrong before. I mean, this is a guy who wasn't that great of a fighter, had a daughter, and then became a fucking phenomenal fighter. Like it was a change that happened so fast with him. But Islam's just a different type. Again, those people are wrestling bears and shit over there. They're just different humans over there. They're much angrier than we are in the United States right now.
Right.
But Charles's jiu-jitsu is as good as it gets. So I might be fucking way off on that.
Call me crazy, Eric. I don't think that fight sees the floor.
You don't think?
I don't think that fight's going to see the floor. I think it's going to be very, very erratic first round. Second round, we're going to see cardio. Whose cardio came because looking at Charles' last two fights with Chandler and Dustin, I mean, right from the bell, they're out there, and Gaethje and Charles too. They're out there swinging. I think Charles drags you into like these wars, even if you don't want to get in them. I do, and they both know like Islam's like, I'm gonna put this guy on his back. He's even said, I'm gonna drag this guy to the ground. Charles said, yeah, let me see you do it. I don't think it's gonna come that quick. I think it's gonna be Charles looking to fight with that length, and I've never seen the guy sprawl a takedown in the cage. He kind of accepts like if the fight's coming to the ground. But there will be the X factor though. And when Gaethje was hitting Charles just pulled guard, laid on his back. I don't think he does that against Islam if he gets tagged, because Islam's going to be like, I'm going to jump right in.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just feel like Islam, arguably, I think is the better striker than Khabib. Everyone says he's the better version of Khabib. Islam is the better striker. I don't know about the grappling, but I don't think that fight will see the floor. I think Islam's going to go out there and swing with him a little bit, and I think Charles will catch him. But we'll see.
I can't wait to watch it. I can't wait to watch that. And if they sign in, I think this is going to happen. The Colby Covington and Chimaev fight is being talked. That's going to be I'd imagine Chimaev's probably going to be, a small favorite in that. But Colby's, if it weren't for Izzy, if it weren't for Usman, it was Izzy. Why the fuck, man? I always get them mixed up. But if it weren't for that, he'd probably be the champ in that division.
100%. I think if Colby beats Chimaev,
yeah,
Usman does not, and Usman doesn't get a rematch soon against Edwards. Let's say something happens, Usman. I think Colby will beat Leon, and I think Colby will get the belt. I think Leon is the easier matchup for Colby. I
agree, and it's the right fight. Colby deserves that fight, especially if they give him somebody before. But even if they don't, obviously Usman deserves the next fight against Edwards. But
they should run that back.
They should, but it hasn't been solidified yet, and they might. Usman's brain recovery, because he's still not hitting the bag. They're really trying to take it easy on him. They're doing the right thing. They're basically doing what the NFL doesn't do for their athletes, and giving people time to recover. But if he has to fight, if Edwards has to fight before, that fight really needs to be Colby's. He's earned that right. I think, and hopefully the UFC looks at it that way as well. But UFC does whatever the fuck they want to do. And sometimes they do things we agree with, and sometimes they don't. But overall, it's a great organization. It's run very, very well. But I'd like to see Colby get that shot.
Who would you like in Chimaev versus Colby?
Chimaev. Yeah. It'd be the only chance for Colby I'd see is if he somehow takes him into deep water. If it's a 5-rounder, then maybe it's a main event on a card that's not a championship fight. Or if Colby gets the belt and they put him against Chimaev for a championship fight, much better shot for Colby, because he, at that point he has a chance to get him into those 4th and 5th rounds and see if Chimaev can keep the cardio with Colby, because Colby's cardio is legendary amongst legendary athletes. Like, he can stay at that pace all 5 rounds. And I quite frankly, I don't think, from what I saw with Chimaev, in the fight against number 2, who the fuck was it? We just talked about him.
Gilbert Burns.
Against Gilbert Burns, he was fading a little bit.
Faded.
Yeah. And so if Colby can get him into 4 and 5, I think Colby wins that fight. If it works where Chimaev just gets a hold of him. I mean, Colby's wrestling is outstanding, but I think Chimaev's just a lot bigger.
Another thing too, Eric, don't get me wrong, it was insane, the scrambling in the Kevin Holland fight, when they were just scramble, and Kevin Holland kept rolling with him. Chimaev was so tense and was not letting go, just locked on him. There was a point when right before Chimaev started to go for the Darce or Anaconda, I forget what he finished with, but where Kevin was down in Turtle and Chimaev took a second, and you could see him. I mean, whether that was him just taking some big breaths, he has a breathing routine when we're slowing down. I'm totally on board with that for you. Chimaev would have to get Colby out of there early. He can't let that fight drag on. He can't let Colby start walking you with that like he was doing against Jorge, where he's just pumping that jab, flashing that jab, throwing the cross and level change. He can't get into shit like that with Colby, because Colby ain't known for knocking guys out, but it's different when you got a guy who's just throwing nonstop, and then he's trying to wrestle with you, taking you down. You're gonna be a different kind of tired. I mean, look at Masvidal. He had to have guys carrying him out of the cage. He was so tired. Yeah, it's a different intensity. Chimaev's not Masvidal. He's gonna be able to stop takedowns, but it's gonna be way different after he's fought at a crazy pace for a couple rounds. So Colby definitely needs that fight to go in deep. It can't be a first rounder fight, because Chimaev, look at him. That guy comes out, then he comes to kill early and fast. But like you were saying in the Burns fight, he couldn't get Gilbert out of there early, and Gilbert drug him back into the water, and that fight started getting a little bit out of control when he started losing some energy.
Yeah, once he lost it was a little bit like a Mike Tyson thing. Once he lost the psychological edge of, wait, can this guy, is he going to knock me out? No, he's not. And, once Burns started landing, got that confidence and stayed in the fight, Chimaev looked very beatable at that point. Matter of fact, you could make an argument that Burns won that fight. It's one of those that you could easily make that debate and say, hey, look at the numbers, look at this round and that, and say, yeah, Burns could have gotten the nod there. But I'm excited, man. Today should be fun. That the card starts at 4 today, so we have about an hour and a half. I'm going to post this up. We'll be in touch during the fight. But thank you again for joining, and I'm glad you have energy and power, so you and the cats can have some fun. And,
we're gonna be enjoying it, Eric. I'll talk to you soon, man.
All right, brother. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Take care, Eric.